Hi, I'm Neil Kelleher, and in this video I wanted to go over a few of the stretching techniques that I use. I'll say these are non-scientific stretching techniques because basically they're ones that I've explored for myself or figured out for myself, and there may be some science behind it, but basically what I've done is learn to feel my body, control it, and based on that figure out, basically do stretching experiments with my own body using data from my body to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And I generally use a number of different techniques because I find that they all have slightly different effects, and depending on the mood I'm in, I might use one technique or another. One technique might be more effective on any given day than another. But the feeling is, rather than limiting myself to one specific technique, I try to vary between a bunch of them. And if I'm teaching, I'll use different techniques based on the abilities of the people that I'm teaching. The very first stretching technique I call relaxed stretching or gravity-assisted stretching. And that's because gravity is the force which gravity is what provides the stretching force, or if you like, it's body weight pulled down by gravity that provides the stretching force. An example of this is, I learned this one from Andre Lop. It's quite common now, but a shoulder stretch is to sit with one arm, lie with one arm out to the side, and then gently roll the body. So my right arm's out to the side, so I'll roll my body to the left. And in this position, I can let my left hip sink down. So I'll let my left hip sink down, and that's what provides a stretch at the front of the shoulder. Now it's called a relaxed stretch. I call it a relaxed stretch in general because the muscle that I'm trying to stretch and the muscles that I'm trying to stretch, I'm also trying to relax so that they lengthen while being relaxed. It doesn't mean that the body's totally relaxed. And as a matter of fact, what I may be doing, depending on the type of stretch or exact stretch, but for example, in this stretch, rather than just trying to relax totally and let gravity pull me straight down into the stretch, I'm using my legs to actually help me tilt my pelvis in such a position that the pelvis starts to sink down. I could have my free hand in front of me, and that hand can be used to give a bit of an assist until I get into the position where I can actually relax and let gravity pull me into the stretch. So although it's, you might call this gravity assisted, or you might call it relaxed stretching, it's not necessarily that the whole body relaxes. It's more important that you focus on relaxing the part of the body that you're trying to stretch. Now, one challenge with this type of pose, so you could be doing a forward bend, a stretch for the hamstrings, and trying to relax into it. And depending on your flexibility, if you're upright like this, and this is as far as you can go forward, then you won't be able to use gravity to provide the driving force unless you reach your arms forward, in which case gravity then pulls on your arms, and that then might help you to do a relaxed stretch. So one of the difficulties with relaxed stretching is if you don't have a certain level of flexibility in the first place, it might not be effective, and so what you need is an ability to change the position of the stretch. So for the shoulder stretch I just showed you, if you're uncomfortable doing it on the floor, if it hurts too much, then an option is to use a wall. So then it still could be considered a relaxed stretch, but instead of using gravity, you're actually using your legs or your waist to drive the stretch. In this case, I'm using my legs to turn my pelvis. I could also use my abs to turn my pelvis so that I stretch the shoulder. Now, another problem with relaxed stretching, particularly for beginners or people who aren't used to stretching in the first place or using their body, are they relaxed, or they have difficulty in relaxing, or they can't even they can't tell if they're relaxed, if the muscle they're trying to stretch is relaxed or engaged. So one of the techniques that I use to work towards relaxed stretching is to actually have them resist the stretch, so squeeze the muscles that they're trying to stretch and then relax, squeeze and then relax. So for someone who's a bit more tighter or has less range of motion in the first place, a standing forward bend like this might be helpful. And so in this instance, the muscles trying to stretch include the hamstrings and the buttock. So you could, what I might have them do is squeeze the buttock and hamstring, feel that engaged, then put the arms on the floor and focus on relaxing the hamstring, and then the elbows can bend to let the ribcage sink down, let the pelvis sink forward, and that gives a stretch. So if you're not used to, so that too is an important aspect of relaxed stretching, is being able to relax the muscle that you're being stretched. So if you can't relax it, practice engaging it and then relaxing. It can be a smooth rhythm, almost like a breathing rhythm. So it could be squeeze and then relax, squeeze and relax. And rather than suddenly squeezing, if you imagine a breath rather than a breath like, instead make it smooth. Smoothly inhale, smoothly exhale. And that's the same way that you can relax and contract. You can slowly contract, resist the stretch, and slowly relax and allow yourself to go deeper at the same time, feeling the muscles that you're stretching being relaxed. One of the reasons I still do relax stretching on occasion is that it can feel really nice afterwards. So it can be a nice way to end your day, perhaps before going to bed. Relaxed stretching, you might find, feels very relaxing afterwards. So if you're stressed out a little bit or tense, you may find that relaxed stretching helps you to unwind and may help you to sleep better. It's not a guarantee, but it's one of the ways that you can approach a relaxed stretching. With assisted stretching, the idea is to use opposing muscles to drive the stretch. So for a forward bend, rather than just sinking down, I could use the front of my thighs, the quadriceps, basically keeping me straight. More importantly, the hip flexors. I can use the hip flexors to drive the forward bend. Another stretching technique is based on the idea that a muscle can do three things when it is active. The muscle, when active, can either stay the same length, so in that case it might be working against opposing muscles working with equal force, or may be working against gravity. So in this instance, my bicep is engaged, but it's staying the same length. Muscle can be active and lengthen. So in this case, my bicep is still active, but it's lengthening. So my tricep muscle is working against is activating with slightly more force so that my elbow joint is opening and my bicep is lengthening, but it's staying active. Or a muscle can be active and contract. In this case, my bicep is exerting more force than my triceps so that my elbow closes and the bicep stays active. And that's in contrast to, say, supporting my arm with my other hand. So bicep is reasonably relaxed. I can close my elbow, bicep still stays relaxed, or I can open it and it lengthens and stays relaxed. But anyway, the idea then is that a resisted stretch is where the muscle being stretched is actually active but slowly lengthening. One of the exercises that I found this extremely helpful for was in front to back splits. So I have to be careful of this knee. It's a little bit, it's going through some problems. But anyway, for splits, one of the ways that I sometimes practice it is, say, for the front leg and the back leg, I'll squeeze my muscles here, keep them active so I'm preventing myself from separating. But then I'll relax them just enough that the weight of my body sinks me down. So these muscles are still strong, but they're lengthening. So the front of this hip is strong but lengthening. The back of this hip is strong but lengthening, and I'll stop. I'll pause here for a bit and then reduce the tension in my muscles just enough that my legs can move apart, but the muscles are still active. This is opposed to, say, using my arms to support my body weight, keeping the legs relaxed, and then trying to gradually sink down using the weight of my body. Other types of stretch, so there are variations. I was demoing this to a friend. So one way to stretch, if I wanted to stretch the hamstrings, I could use the front of the hip to do an assisted stretch so that these muscles here are stretching the hamstrings. Or I could provide the muscle power by using my arms. So in this case, I can use the power of my arms to stretch the hamstrings. So it's still a muscle assisted stretch, but instead of using the intrinsic muscles of the leg, I'm using the muscles of my arms. Another way to do it, if you have a partner or a friend, you could lie back on the floor. And then this could be a gravity assisted stretch. The weight of my leg is what stretches the hamstring. I could have someone pushing on my leg, provide a partner assisted stretch so that they stretch my body. or I could use my arms so that my arms provide the stretch. Another variation of stretching, so you could use muscle power to resist the stretch, you can use muscle power to assist the stretch. You could also use the opposing muscle and the target muscle at the same time. So, for example, I could activate the hip flexors, but I could try and also activate the hip extensors at the same time. So that could stabilize the hip joint, or I could exert one side with slightly more force so that I move in the direction of stretch. Might be easier in a pose like this. I could activate the back of the leg first, and that helps to keep my torso from sinking down. Then I could activate the hip flexors. So the back of the thigh is strong, the front of the thigh is strong. Then so that I move in the direction that stretches the back of the thigh, I can exert slightly more force with the muscles at the front of the leg, or slightly reduce the strength of the muscles at the back of the leg so that I move in the direction of stretch while keeping, the front and back of the leg active. So what are the benefits of the muscle-assisted stretch? Muscle-assisted, muscle-resisted stretches is one, they develop your ability to control those muscles, so you work on activating them, whether they're shortening or lengthening.